Hey everybody, we are back again. Football is
winding down. Yeah, it's
That's
sad.
so sad. That's so sad. But we're going to talk a little NCAA football, a little college football here. We are already up to week 14. But first, we have to recap week 13. We had some pretty good games on week 13.
Yes, we did. We had week 13.
So we'll do a little recap.
Some surprises.
Yeah, and then some of them hammered people just like we thought they would. So, but we'll recap a little week 13, and then we'll jump on in and do some predicts for what they call it, rivalry week. It's hard for me to say that. All right, well, let's jump on into week 13 here first. For people who don't watch too much, we'll
recap from 1 to 15.
So we'll talk about the 1 through 15 games from week 13. We won't do those in order. We'll just scroll down through them. But when we do the predicts for week 14, then we'll start at 1 and we'll work our way down. A lot of times there's buys. There's some buys in our week 13 recap. But on the predictions, we have no buys this week. So all top 15 teams are playing. We're going to play this week. So.
Of course, it's a big week.
Big week. Rivalry week. Whatever it is. All right, let's go ahead and jump into week 13. Starting out, we had Penn State at Ohio State. Penn State gave them a little bit of a game, but
Ohio State pulled away a bit.
Now, that's number 2 Ohio State last week.
This week, they were booted to number 1.
So number 1 again. But Ohio State beat Penn State 28 to 17.
Big game, James.
Big game, James Franklin came through again. Not. So... and Alabama struggled with their backup quarterback. They only scored 66 points.
Why can't they schedule good games in November, though, outside of the Iron Bowl?
You say Western Carolina's not a good game? Western Carolina. Sounds like an Ohio State opponent, don't it? Alabama was 66-3 with that backup quarterback. Yeah, they took a step back whenever.
They took a big step back.
Yeah. But they look good just like Alabama does. Now, Alabama's got a tough game this week, but we won't talk about that yet. We had number 10 Minnesota go to Northwestern's.
Awful.
They're awful this year. Minnesota won 38-22.
Usually Northwestern's not that bad of a team.
They are this year.
But this year. They have the scent of garbage.
You know, honestly, most of the time they're not really that good. It's just a few years there they were. Most of the time they're not. But we had Samford, not Stanford. Samford go to Auburn.
And Auburn shut them out.
It was only 52-0. It wasn't that big of a... 52-0. Yeah, that was pretty much of a butt kick in there. We had a surprise struggle for Georgia. Texas A&M went into Georgia and almost beat them.
I've got one thing
Georgia
to say,
won
Georgia.
19-13.
Your offense is bad.
Their offense is lacking a little bit. It's almost
definitely
like
lacking.
It's almost like they lost their offensive coordinator from last year or something.
They ain't gonna beat LSU.
No. Now Georgia did win. Georgia's won the SEC East, and LSU has won the SEC West now. So we do have the SEC championship set up between LSU Tigers
and the Georgia Bulldogs.
So
they've met a couple of times in the past before in the SEC title game.
Yeah, we had number 13 Michigan go to Indiana. And 139-14, setting up.
The Wolverines usually do that to the Hoosiers anyway.
Yeah, they're more of a basketball school. At least they used to be a basketball school.
But Michigan has been rolling in basketball lately. But that's all I'll say about that.
Now, we had Texas go to Baylor. Texas went to Baylor. Baylor won 24-10.
Texas has really fallen off. I think LSU broke them earlier in the year.
Yeah. First game of the year, I think LSU broke them. We had number 12 Wisconsin take on Purdue, and Purdue hasn't been much of a football team lately.
They're more of a basketball school anyway.
Wisconsin won 45-24. At least ever since Drew Brees left, Purdue hasn't much of a football team.
On Wisconsin?
On Wisconsin. We had Arkansas poor Arkansas went to LSU and lost by 36. They did cover the spread, though. I think the spread was like 40. so Arkansas covered that 42-point spread.
But
LSU
decided to have some ham early before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, they ate some early pig and cooked that up by 36 points. We had number 6 Oregon lose.
Crap the bed.
Crap to bed. They went to Arizona State. We thought that would be a tough game because why do you play the game?
You play to win it.
That's why. They've got a really good coach there. So they lost 31-28. Which knocks them out of any
sort of playoff contention. Doesn't Oregon usually do this every November?
They've got a chance to still win the Pac-12 and go to the Rose Bowl and probably take on Michigan or Penn State, whoever happens to win.
But
let's go to the playoffs.
That leaves the door open for the Utes.
Yes, it does. It also leaves the door open for this next team. TCU went to Oklahoma. Oklahoma won. So Oklahoma is still a one-loss team that could win the Big 12 and maybe sneak into that number 4 spot.
Because they still have their starting quarterback.
Tua is not there. Hurts is there.
But Hurts is a cheat code, so I'm not going to bag on him there.
Oklahoma doesn't have much of a defense, but they do have a pretty good offense. We had number 7 Utah. Speaking about Utah having a chance, Utah won 35-7 over Arizona, and they've got a chance to win the Pac-12 now. And if they win the Pac-12 with only a one loss, they got. I mean, Oklahoma, Utah, or a one-loss Alabama. It's going to be really interesting to see who
squeezes in.
Who squeezes into that 4th spot. It's going to be really interesting. But that's it. That is our recap for Week 13.
That was surprisingly quick.
Well, we had a lot of bye games last week.
We had plenty of byes.
We had plenty of byes. This week we have no byes, so we got to talk about Week 14 and all top 15 teams we will have to talk about. And, of course, number 1, like we mentioned, jumped up to Ohio State this week. Which
everyone's fancy.
I think it's crazy that LSU's not the number 1 team in the country. But it's Ohio State, so we'll let Ohio State. Ohio State is going to Michigan. It'll be a tougher game than normal, but Ohio State's still favored by 9.5. And, honestly, I think they'll cover that spread. I think it'll be 10-plus points.
Because Michigan's had no luck against Ohio State lately.
No, they're 0-7 the past 7.
I think they've lost like 13 of the last 14 meetings.
Yeah, and Urban I think was 7-0 against them, and now so it's going to be. I still think Ohio State wins that game. We got Clemson versus South Carolina.
That is a complete slaughter.
That's a 28-point game.
That's
Clemson's
an overmatched rivalry game there.
Yep. And the same thing for number 4, Georgia. Well, we didn't talk about number 2 LSU, did we? We was going somehow we skipped number 2 LSU. You can't skip number 2 LSU. They're taking on Texas A&M.
Last year they had a bit of a slobber knocker with them.
Yeah, what was it? 7 overtimes or something?
7 overtimes, over 70 points.
Yeah, that's a high-scoring game.
It's kind of like 74-72.
It was the high-scoring overtime game
in the NCAA's history.
Yeah, so but this year I think LSU takes care of
them.
Yeah, it's a 17-point game, and I think LSU covers that 17 points there too. I mean, Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow is out of his mind this year. So I think that's just an easy win.
Yeah, I think that's an easy win. Like I said, we jumped to number 3, Clemson. We already talked about that one. They're going to hammer South Carolina by 28 points pretty easily.
That's some free chicken.
Yeah, South Carolina's 4-7, so they're going to be 4.
Came off a loss to Appalachian State.
Appalachian State's top 25. I mean, it sounds weird, but Appy State, just saying a little shout out to them. I mean, they're number 25. You got to say anything to them? Now, Georgia, number 4, going to Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech is a joke.
They're a bad team this year.
They are bad.
They're a bad team. Georgia would probably beat them by 28 points or something too.
It doesn't matter how bad of an offense or how inconsistent Georgia has been on offense. No. You should definitely beat Georgia Tech pretty easy.
Yeah. Now number 5 is still Alabama. It's a bummer they didn't make it to the championship game, but they are going to Auburn for the Iron Bowl.
Which is the last game of their season.
Last game of Alabama's season until they get picked to go somewhere, to a bowl or to the championship series or whatever. But they're only favored 3 against Auburn.
The Iron Bowl. Here's a fun little rivalry game that's had a lot of memorable moments.
Yeah. I think Alabama covers that 3-point spread. I would take Bama -3.
Yes, that would be the smart decision there because Auburn is the ultimate trail mix box.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get with them. You don't know which team's going to show up. So I would definitely think Alabama, because the main thing is Auburn doesn't have much film of that backup quarterback.
Absolutely
How
not.
do you guard him? How do you prevent him from being successful? You've only got one game on tape, and that was the 66-point game that Western Carolina gave up. So you don't have them playing. You don't have him playing a good team. So it's going to be hard to scheme against Alabama's backup quarterback. So that's why I think that Nick Saban will figure out a way to make him successful, and probably beat Auburn by 10+ points, to be honest. But I think they'll very easily cover that 3-point spread.
I've said Auburn's like a box of chocolates.
You never know what you're going to get. You don't. We got number 6, Utah, taking on Colorado. Colorado's not very good this year either, so Utah should roll over them pretty easily.
I hope.
You
hope.
You know why? They're taking on the Buffaloes. Oh, that's an inside joke. But we got number 7, Oklahoma.
The cheat code, Jalen Hurts.
Going to Okie State. I think Oklahoma wins by 2 touchdowns there.
The battle for Oklahoma, as I like to call it.
Okie State's not a bad team, but Oklahoma, I think, is sort of playing for something now. They've got a chance to move in. Ever since Oregon lost, they've got a chance to move into that number 4 spot. So I think they'll take care of them. Number 8 this week is Minnesota. And this will be an interesting game because this game also takes out our number 12 team, which is Wisconsin.
This is going to be an interesting game.
Minnesota
wins, they go into the Big Ten title game.
Yeah. Wisconsin is favored by 3 at Minnesota. So, honestly, this is sort of a tough game for me to pick.
Because Wisconsin's got a solid defense, and Minnesota's been pretty much a Cinderella team all season.
They've been consistent. I mean, they had that one mess-up loss.
Against Iowa. Iowa's not a bad loss.
Iowa's not a bad team, so it would be hard for me. I would probably, I don't know. Who do you want to pick it out? That's a tough one. Wisconsin.
You want to pick? I want to pick some Gophers.
Minnesota +3. You gonna take 3 points to play with?
I want to take the Gophers in 3.
You want to take the Gophers in 3? That's not. That's not really a bad call there. We got number 9 this week. Baylor going to Kansas.
Kansas is very odd.
Yeah,
they have a good coach in Les Miles,
and they're not a horrible team this year. Even though they're 3-8,
this is his first season.
They fight every game. They don't give up so they got a good. But I still think Baylor. I still think Baylor wins.
I don't think Baylor should win that game.
Yeah,
especially since you're playing for the Big 12 title. If you do win.
Yep. And then we'll jump on down to number 10, Penn State. They're taking on the newly enshrined Big Ten powerhouse Rutgers. Rutgers moving to the Big Ten. They're 2-9 this year. So
Rutgers is some special kind of awful.
Why is Rutgers in the Big Ten? Why is Maryland in the Big Ten?
I don't know.
So you can line up 2 cream puffs to mow down every year for the other team.
You ask me. I have no idea.
Penn State's favored by 40.5 points.
Big game, James, or this is not a big game, so...
No,
So, yeah, the Nittany Lions should take care of that.
Yeah, they probably will, yeah. And number 11 is Florida, taking on Florida State without a coach.
Because of Willie Taggart.
With an interim coach anyways, yeah. And they're at Florida this time. Florida's favored by 17.5. They'll probably cover that pretty easy.
Oh, Florida State.
They're trying to get to as good a bowl as they can, so they should be able to cover that.
Yeah, that definitely pick Florida on that one.
Yeah, we already talked about number 12, Wisconsin, so we don't have to talk about them again. We already talked about number 13, Michigan, taking on Ohio State, so we don't have to talk about them. So we'll jump on down to number 14, who is Oregon. Oregon ain't got a lot to play for, but they're playing Oregon State, and Oregon State's
Just an in-game rival, in-state rivalry.
It's just a rivalry, yeah. Oregon will probably win that one quite handily, probably by 17 plus points, probably.
Yeah, the Ducks will pretty much have a quack of a time with that one.
They'll quack them up. And then number 15, Auburn. We've already talked about them. Auburn will be taking on Alabama.
In the Iron Bowl.
So that's all of our top 15 teams we've talked about from Week 13. Did a little
Send us a like. Hit the subscribe button. Send us a thought down below of what you think.
Yeah. Share us with your friends so they can see how crazy we are, too. Hit the Groovy Baby button. It'll
somewhere on my head.
It'll be over here somewhere. Other than that, we'll see you next week on some more college football.
See you next week.